the actual.
What's going on, everybody? D-Style Boxing live here. This is the RoundTable 117th edition. I'm being joined by Joe Habib from Ringside Reporter, Easy Raw from the Easy Raw podcast. Lo Henshaw, how's it going? We're being joined by her as well. Make sure you follow her on Twitter. She works for Behind the Gloves as well, so shout out to her. And then, of course, Lyndon on here. How's it going, brother?
Thank you. Good. Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me back.
That's right. That's right. That's a deep dive podcast. Make sure you guys follow everybody here and all that good
Y'all
stuff.
are smart. You put your Twitter handles in there.
That's right. We're very smart people. And by the way, Mario Munguia, is your mic working this time, sir?
I'm good. I'm ready to rock. What's up, everybody?
Right on time. I thought,
Mario.
I was going to have to kick him out if it didn't work. You know what I mean? Like, sorry,
I wore the Bret Hart shirt for you for Valentine's.
Take
Come
it
on,
easy.
There we go.
Champion kicking no one out.
I'm not throwing your weight around this early in the show.
Let's go ahead and get this one. Let's go ahead and get this one started. We have a lot of topics to kind of go over here. First of all, last weekend we all know the results of the Navarrette Liam Wilson fight. All right, some interesting things happened. There's some controversy. Liam Wilson has protested the result. We're going to see what happens with that. Usually nothing, but maybe he'll get something, and maybe they'll give him a rematch. Who knows, right? But we'll see what happens with that. But here's my question for the panel. What should be done, if anything, to improve the 10 count? Do you think it's perfect the way it is? Is there specific things you'd like to see implemented across the board? And two, how do you feel about, or how do you think refs should handle a situation when a fighter deliberately spits out the mouthpiece? And since this fight had an Aussie in it, let's go to start with Lyndon.
Yeah, well, look, his performance really didn't surprise us down here. We, he's a great young talent, is Liam, and I know Eric, you got behind him as well. You gave him a big chance. I thought he fought great. But as far as the mouth guard goes, I think obviously he was lucky at the start in the first place because he hit Navarrette when he was on the canvas. That was probably another side of the story. But look, I think as far as the mouth guard goes, it's a tough one. It's been this way for so long. I think the only way it could maybe be fixed is that I said this on my show the other night, is that if the mouth guard gets spat out deliberately, that's tough. The fight continues, and he continues the rest of the round without the mouth guard. And I know there might be some things raised about, well, obviously opens up the risk of injury to his mouth and cuts. But I mean, we go through the same thing with the head and eyes and everything else. So I think if it's deliberately spat out, it's tough, and we call box, and we go to the end of the round, and then the corner can deal with it then. It's as simple as that.
My bad, I was muted there. Real quick, Lyndon. Do you the count specifically? Are you okay with the way the refs do it? Cut to me. Some even do the like this or that way.
It's another tough one because it's been that way since forever and a day. That the referee can stop at any time, and it could be numerous things that make him pause the count. But maybe it's got to be. We all know that the count starts by the timekeeper at ringside when he hits the deck. Maybe it's got to be a 10. He counts to 10, and then regardless of what's happening, to 8, and regardless of what's happening, he calls box. I mean, it's a really tough one because all the cornermen, boxers, everyone knows all the tricks in the book to try and buy a little bit of time. That's probably the toughest one. As I said before, with spitting in the mouth guard out, I think that's a simple one, but this is really, really hard. And I think, maybe it's just got to be when the actual count gets to 8, it's box on, boys and girls, and let's go, regardless of what's happening.
Well said. Well said. Everybody in chat, make sure you hit the like button, by the way, on your way in. Mario Munguia, talk to us, brother. Those two questions. What do you say?
Yeah. Listen, I saw this topic and I wanted to give a lot of thought to it. So I went and researched because I saw a lot of people talking about how you have to remember it's a 10 count and not 10 seconds. And I understand the controversy, I do, but based on the rules, based on what is expected of the ref, it's really hard to look at that and say anything went wrong, like somebody did something wrong specifically. It's the rules themselves that need to be changed. And too often and for too long, spitting out the mouthpiece, kicking it around, your corner spilling a bunch of water in the corner to give you a rest, all that stuff has been permitted. And honestly, we kind of glorify it. When somebody does that, we call them veteran tactics. And it's like, wildly, it's not just cheating, right? That's not what it is. It's veteran tactics. So we have to like completely change the way that we look at these kinds of tactics, because, you know, without that rest, who knows what happens. And I'll tell you what, it wasn't, Liam Wilson did not lose because it was too long of a count. He could have won with a shorter count, but he didn't lose because of that. He was completely out of his element, completely out of water, didn't know how to handle Navarrete when he had him hurt. And ultimately, I feel like a lot of this is he's kicking up dust because he knows he was so close, but yet so far.
Okay. All right. MC in the ring. Anything we can do to improve the counts? And what should we do with fighters that spit out the mouthpiece deliberately?
I think specifically for the mouthpiece, replay needs to start coming into play. This is something that they could very quickly go back and check. There should be people in the background looking at this. Unfortunately, I don't think that replay is anywhere, right, in boxing as far as we go right now. So I think that's something that could definitely help. And like Mario said, we are used to seeing all these type of tactics, but we see them as a veteran thing. So we as fans, I think, have to start identifying those type of issues and saying, no, that's not okay. And we're not going to continue to support fighters if we know that they're purposely doing these type of things. Also, the trainers, a lot of the times, I think now some camps get bad reps because we know that they use certain tactics and things like that. But at the end of the day, the commissioning, they need to step in and start looking at that. I personally think that Liam did win because that count should have not gone that far out. So if you're looking at it from his perspective, I would have thought that the fight was taken from me. I don't really think that there's nothing that we can do. It's something that the commissions have to do. And even at that, it might have to be even state by state. So I don't think it's something that can be fixed.
Man, okay. All right. Somebody's got to tell us that ain't real, right? Easy Raw, talk to us. Say two questions to you, brother.
I think boxing loves fake outrage more than any sport. And I think that what this is, you know, some commissions, right, they're mad about this commission. Some commissions have you do a full DUI test when they get knocked down. They have you go walk right, left, come forward, right? They have you do this whole thing. And that takes about 30 seconds. But this thing, you know, actually the ref tried to speed it up. He didn't even go to the corner to wash out the mouthpiece. He just put it directly in his mouth. The problem was the mouthpiece was upside down. Now, Navarrete, they told him the mouthpiece upside down and had to physically flip it with his glove, which led to 20 seconds. But that's probably on average what it takes, that whole process anyways, any other commission. So I just don't think anyone's legitimately lost in boxing over the last 40 years, apparently, because there's an excuse every weekend why someone loses in the sport. But yeah, if you want to help the process, don't even do a standing 8 count. As soon as someone stands and you deem him good enough to continue, let the fight continue. Because I don't really think it's even healthy for a guy to do a standing 8 count and let him get back to whatever he has, and then the guy recovers a little bit and then takes a beating again. If he can't stand if he stands up and you're 6 seconds, but he can't stand, stop the fight. It's simple as that. I think that's the only fix for it, but I think it's a lot of, honestly, just fake outrage. When we get that after what was a great fight, I think got more fake outrage after it.
Okay. The Cinnamon Don, I appreciate it. He says, salute 8CP. Hey, I appreciate that. Low. Is there anything we can do to improve these 10 counts? Anything you could propose? And what should we do about fighters that deliberately spit out the mouthpiece? And welcome to the roundtable.
Hello. So actually, I called around to some commissions about this because I wanted to talk to them about it. I'm really weird about rules. I like to know rules. I like to know statutes of things. So I called a couple commissions, spoke with them about it. And I feel like standardization across all the commissions, because it's going to vary commission to commission. Like if you have a show in Arizona, his 10 count may be 10 seconds. You go to another commission, another state, it's going to be a little different. And even ref to ref, even within the same state. So I feel like standardization is really what's going to make it a little better with the 10 count. Changing the language, especially, so that's a law issue. Changing the language within the statutes of each commission to say 10 seconds. Because I think 10 seconds is a pretty good common sense rule. When you say a 10 count, you think 10 seconds. I think that's the kind of thing, but you're going to have to get a lot of coordination with not just within the commissions, but within the sanctioning bodies, things like that. As far as the mouthpiece thing goes, though, I mean, a ref's number one job, as soon as they get in there, before they even consider safety, all that, before it even starts, they have to establish authority. A ref has to establish authority, because you cannot be over the safety of a boxer if they will not listen to you. And we've seen refs in there who do not have a very strong presence. We have seen refs in there, as soon as you say something, both stop. Both boxers, no matter how quick the action is and how fiery it is, they stop. So that's going to be a personality issue with the refs. But as far as the way it should go, at least the way it is with Olympic style boxing, you have one call. If they spit the mouthpiece out, given the benefit of the doubt, they didn't bite down, whatever, you call it out. Hey, blue corner, bite down on your mouthpiece. They do it again, you give them a soft warning. That means they let them keep fighting, but you say, red, I told you, quit spitting out your mouthpiece. They do it again. That's called a hard warning, where you stop the action, you look straight at them, just one-on-one, and say, listen, I told you, quit spitting out your mouthpiece or I'm taking a point. Then if they do it again for a third time, then that's when consequences start to step in. But again, like I said, it really needs to come down to standardization of different rules across the board. If that means we get an umbrella organization over the commissions, I don't know if that's a good idea or a bad idea. I think that's a whole other topic. Things like that, that's what's going to really solve these issues of little minuscule rules that seem to play out differently in different bouts.
Okay. All right. Well said, Joe Habib. Talk to us. How do you feel about this? We talked about this extensively, so I know your take.
The mouthpiece thing, obviously, I do believe he spit it out on purpose. So the first time, that's the referee's discretion to determine that. And I think it was pretty obvious. He spit it out on purpose. First time, warning. Second time, point taken away. Third time, disqualification. That's how I feel it should be handled. The whole count thing, all these counts are slow because, as Mario said, and I think Lo said the same thing, they're not 10 seconds. They're people, the referee's counting, and everyone's going to count at a different cadence, and there's really no way to control that. The problem is, a lot of times when referees have to stop the action, say someone's coming out of the neutral corner, they have a bad habit of not picking up the count from the timekeeper, because that's what they're supposed to do, and a lot of times that doesn't happen. So in this instance, I'm not sure if the referee started the count late and he didn't look over at the timekeeper to see, where it was after he made him put the mouthpiece back in, or he put the mouthpiece back in for him. But I agree with Easy Raw. He tried to expedite that process. He grabbed it, shoved it right in. A lot of times, they'll have the corner rinse it out. He didn't even have the corner rinse it out. He just shoved it in there, right? So he tried to, speed up that process as quickly as possible. But once again, I think the big issue with the counts is these referees really need to look over to the timekeeper and pick up the count from the timekeeper once they have to pause for any reason, whether it be, like I said, neutral corner, the mouthpiece, whatever. So he may have started that count late, and that was the problem. You know what I'm saying? He should have probably picked it up at 3. You know what I mean? After the the mouthpiece. But again, he was already up. So that's the thing. So it's kind of crazy. It's a lot of it is going to be like a subjective call from the referee. But in terms of improving the 10 count, I just think referees have to really keep an eye on the timekeeper, and I think that's where they kind of fall by the wayside in a lot of situations. So
I do agree with that for sure. I'm going to be very brief, and this is what I'm going to say, and I stand firm on this. Now, I do agree that at the very least, if a fighter deliberately spits out the mouthpiece during a fight, that at least a point should be taken away, or they have to fight the rest of the round that way. However, I think the situation is different during a count, okay? During a count, when a ref is counting, if you're going to be okay to fight, in my opinion, if you turn around and spit out the mouthpiece, that's a sign of resignation. That fight should be a TKO, and it's over. It's so different than taking a knee in the middle of the count to me, okay? It's so different than stepping out of the damn ring during the count. You're basically saying, I'm taking out something that's required of me to have to fight, and I'm spitting it out of my mouth. Because if you make that an automatic TKO victory for the other opponent, guess what? They'll stop doing it immediately, right? So now, Batista, what if it accidentally comes out? When has anybody seen that during the count? Like in the history of boxing, when have you seen a mouthpiece accidentally get spit out of the mouth, right? Usually the mouthpiece is a big punch lands like Tyson Douglas and he has it hanging out of his mouth. That's different, right? And then Navarrette has the audacity to complain and say, aren't you going to let my trainer dip it in water? Anything else, Navarrette? You want us to feather you too? Like, well, what do you want? You want some grapes with that? You want me to the ref to shine your shoes too? Like, well, what do you want? We're in the middle of a fight. So I just think it's stupid, and we have people that excuse it as a veteran tactic, like Mario said. Oh, he's smart. Look, if a 12-year-old could do it, I don't want to call it smart. Okay, I want to reserve high IQ and good tactics and veteran tactics for things fighters do in the ring while fighting other fighters. Okay, not sleazy little moves like this. That's my opinion, and I'm gonna stick to it. Okay, go ahead, Pete.
One last point, and I think Lo made a great point about standardization. This whole thing, and I think Easy Rob brought it up too. The whole thing of doing the hokey pokey when the guy gets up, walk over here, do this, do that. Jack Reese, I hate to call him up, but I think he goes a little overboard with making like the fighter like do all these walks and spins and pirouettes. I think just 3 steps forward, and that should be standard across the board. Come to me 3 steps. You can do that without, stumbling, then you're all set. Not this walk this way 10 steps, this way 10 steps, do 3 jumping jacks. That stuff needs to go away. I think that's like a little bit overkill because in that instance, you are giving the fighter a little bit too much time to recover, in my opinion.
And I just want to interject one thing that Beeb said. It's about subjectivity. And that's the issue with boxing and a lot of things that fans, specifically casual fans, have these assumptions about boxing that these rules are written in stone. The 10-second, 10 count thing. Yeah. These are all murky things. Boxing is unlike a lot of these other sports where the time is very specified and it's on the screen and it's, this thing that, is controlled. But with boxing, like there are times where the round goes over 30 seconds. There's times where they hit the 10-second mark at, 50 seconds. It's messed up all the time. So it's like hard to hold these people accountable, especially as Lo made the point from state to state because it, varies. So it's just really hard to like punish when you don't know the rule from time to time,
These
I
people?
think too, like whenever you have, because I hate when people make the comparison between NFL, NBA to boxing, because the NFL, NBA, those are umbrella organizations that govern all the teams. There is no governing body over all of pro boxing. And like you said, standardization, you can only have accountability if there's a standardization, because what are you going to hold them accountable to? Where's the ruling? Where's the ruler? Where's it at? You have to have a hard line in the sand that they have to meet.
Exactly.
You can't have that if there's no law just straight across the board. I also think, because we have this system within USA Boxing, I think there needs to be a point system with all officials, including the refs. If you're not up to standard, you're not going to get the big fights. If you're not up to standard, well then sorry, you're out. Other jobs are performance based. This absolutely should be performance based. That's a very honorable role to be in. I mean, you can't mess that up. That is a job that seriously has consequences if you mess it up. So on it, and letting a guy have a long 10 count like that, all you're doing, most of the time, if you would have just let that guy got knocked out or stopped the fight, he would have sustained less damage. And honestly, doing things like that, trying to save him in this round, you're kind of letting the brick get chipped a little bit too much, and that's when the damage starts happening.
Yeah, prolonging the agony.
And to add on to that, just what you said about not comparing boxing to the NFL, look at how they're still updating rules every year based on whatever happens during that season. So it just shows you how hard it is to keep up with every single scenario that could happen out there, right? I mean, people's lives are in danger at the end of the day.
Well said. Well said.
And they do have the ABC, which is the Association of Boxing Commissions, but it depends where you're at if they're going to adhere to those rules too, because sometimes depending on how big the fight is, like if you're over in some like Indian reservation or something, they may not follow the ABC.
Did you see they used replay the other day, and they didn't even have replay in that place, but it was on a reservation, so they were able to extend the rules. But that's how it should work. That was a great point. I didn't even think of that. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Well, look, we're going to go ahead and proceed here, guys. We have several topics to get to. Appreciate everybody's input. Shout out to the chat. By the way, make sure you guys hit my like button. There was obviously we already knew about Tim Tszyu versus Harrison, but we were waiting, and we knew the fight was in Australia. Australia is a big place, so we're wondering where, right? So they are going to do it in Sydney, Australia, where Tim Tszyu's from. I think that makes sense for the most part, but it is what it is. It'll be in an arena and not a stadium, as some speculated. I prefer an arena myself, but that's me. I think it's better for boxing. But at a press conference, Harrison basically talking. He's saying, look, I'm after the same man Tim's after. And the only way, and Tim's gave me an opportunity to get back to that man. So beating Tim gets me back. Whether that happens or not, who knows? But a lot of, let's say, trash talk. Harrison is questioning Tim Tszyu's resume, saying he ain't fought nobody. He has not fought the level of opposition I fought, and he's looking for the upset here. B, what you make of the comments by Harrison and the fight being announced for Sydney, Australia?
Harrison's he's the real deal, man. He's about it, man. He really is. I think he's a fighter's fighter. I think he comes to fight, and even in his losses, he was winning those fights before he got knocked out. So it's the guy can fight. He can definitely fight and is out of Gain's range. He's a good counter puncher. But he always seems to get hit with that one punch that just turns the fight for him. I was actually at that fight in Connecticut there when in his first loss. Who was the guy he lost to the first time? Lou DiBella's fighter, I forget. But he was winning the fight and he just got hit with a shot and it was over for him.
Nelson.
Man. Yeah, Willie Nelson.
That was a great
Willie Nelson.
I was thinking of the country singer, yes.
Yeah. I was Ness and I were there, Mario. We went to that fight.
I remember they got into that big old thing in the press conference and y'all were there and caught it. That was awesome.
Yeah. I couldn't believe I drew a blank there. But and he was boxing Willie Nelson's ears off, and then just the lights went out. Same thing with Charlo in the second fight. I had him win in the first fight, and I had him win in the second fight until he got hit. So the thing is if Tim Tszyu hits him, will the rug be pulled out from underneath him again? Because this is a tough fight for Tim Tszyu, right? And Tim Tszyu can punch, but he's not a one-hitter quitter type guy. So that's kind of interesting. So if Harrison can keep him at bay, Tim Tszyu likes to get close. He likes to be in the mid-range. Harrison likes to kind of pot shot from the outside. These two styles mesh very well together. It's like a cat and mouse game right here. But I think Harrison will come to fight. I think he'll do the best he can. I think he'll put up a good performance. It's hard to not favor Tim Tszyu here, being at home and just being a little bit fresher, a little younger. He's kind of got momentum on his side as well. And he can box a little. He can box a little bit too. He knows how to set up his punches very well. He knows how to move his head. He knows how to work his way on the inside. He has a great jab himself. He can create his offense pretty well. So I think this is a great fight, and I do think Harrison will bring it. I believe what he says. I think he's going to fight his heart out, and he's either going to go out on his shield or he's going to put up a great fight, one or the other. And I would not be surprised if he pulled off the upset. I think he's very live here. He's very live here. If he doesn't get knocked out, he could win.
Very true. Well said. Easy Raw. If you got a chance to watch the press conference, any comments on that, or what do you think of the matchup?
I think Harrison was very appreciative to be there in that thing, but I think that makes sense because honestly, it's a good matchup for him. So I'd be appreciative too if they were going to pay me good to go over there, and it's a good matchup for me. I'd be very happy too. I think that this is the fight that I wanted for Tim Tszyu before they made the Charlo fight. I was hoping that they made the Harrison fight because if you're going to get to a fight like Charlo, you got to have that fight that graduates you to that level, and Harrison would be the perfect test. But on the other side, it's also kind of the perfect test for Harrison too, because if Harrison could prove that he can stay, not get fall apart later in the fight against a durable, come forward pressure guy, then this is it. This is the chance, the final chance to prove that and put himself in a position for a third fight with Charlo. So it's to me, it's the perfect matchup. we kind of walked backwards into it, but I'm really excited for it. I think it's an excellent fight. I think Tszyu's a lot better than people give him credit for because they really just saw the Gaucher fight, and I don't think that was his best performance, but also just think he got dropped in one round and people just made their decision on that point. I think he's going to do very good in this fight. I think Harrison's going to look very good in this fight, and it's just going to come down to, does Harrison fall apart? Can he stay steady in it? And it's going to graduate perfect to who can fight Charlo next.
Okay, all right. Lo, what you think of the matchup? They're going to fight in Sydney. And just to add this really quick, Harrison said during the press conference, I'm tired of people acting like this is not the better fight. I'm the better fighter. It's talking about he thinks he's better than Jermell still. So what do you make of it?
Yeah, I think that, he has got a lot of motivation from watching his fighter, Alicia, do the thing that he's setting out to do. She went into the backyard of Terry Harper, got her belt. He was there, as her head trainer. She fought again in London, and she beat Michaela Mayer to become unified. Then she just became undisputed this past weekend. So, and then the fact that he had he was the chief cornerman during all of this, that has had to fuel his fire a little bit. So that's why I think he was so, like, there wasn't really as much it was kind of like tongue in cheek, but he was overall, like as Ezra said, very appreciative of the opportunity. You could just see there was so much self-belief, and in my opinion, he is, if not, not one of, but is the slickest boxer at 154 when he's at the top of his game. I think that him and Tim are both going to be tested in different ways. And we're going to see who's going to be able to handle the pressure, who's going to be able to set the pace, who's going to come in the most mentally, physically prepared. But I think that, Tim fighting in his own backyard, that's either going to be an advantage or it's going to be a lot of pressure on him to perform well at home against a former world champion. So you have to look at it that way. That's that's another personality issue. Honestly, this is a fight that I think a lot of people have wanted. And like as I said, we're walking kind of backward into it, but I'm glad that we're getting it.
All right. MC, what it do?
I will have to agree with Lo. This fighting at home is a double-edged sword. Everybody calling you for tickets. You feel the pressure versus Tony Harrison is going to go over there. He really doesn't have the pressure. But I do think him surrounding himself with Alicia Baumgart, seeing her do all that, that has to be a massive buzz to his ego. You know what I'm saying? I think he definitely feels that he's on the right track. I think this is a 50-50 fight because of the situation. I think it's a 50-50 because of the fact that they're fighting in Australia. That already kind of gives Tszyu the upper hand, right? So it is a 50-50 for me. I'm hoping, and I think this is the best fight. I'm glad. I actually kind of think Charlo might already be moving up to 160. I don't think that the winner of this is going to end up getting Charlo. Personally, I think recently Charlo posted something like, I already got everything I wanted. Yeah, champ, go ahead, move up. You really shouldn't. I don't think he should stay at 160, but I mean at 154. But I would not even be surprised if this ends up as a draw, to be honest. But I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a good fight. Especially let's get some action in the 154 act too. So
should we bet the draw? We'd probably get good odds on that, huh?
Probably.
Plus 5,000 on that. I mean, we put $25 on the draw. MC.
I ain't want no draw. Come on. Everybody loses, but Lyndon, talk to us. I mean, the fight's going to be in Sydney. Is Tim Tszyu going to feel the pressure?
Oh, look, I think he will. Look, obviously, we're very excited down here in Australia that the fight's happening. I just think full props to Tim Tszyu. I think he could have easily sat on his hands and taken a tune-up fight in this. But he if you know Tim, and I know him very well, he's the type of guy that would have wanted the next best guy, and that's obviously Tony Harrison. And I think we all have to agree that obviously Tony Harrison has a better resume. He's fought the better fighters and all the rest of it. But I really think this is Tim Tszyu's coming out party. I think you'll see that he can box, he can punch. Look, he's not a massive puncher, but he'll wear you down. And he's so well tuned, well trained. He's got a great trainer. So I think this is going to be, as I said, a great coming out party for Tim. And I think it actually will make, if the Charlo fight does obviously happen, I know someone said before that maybe he might move up, but if it does happen, I think it will maybe appeal more to you guys over there in Australia. I think his credibility will be a lot more, in the States. I think his credibility will be a lot more. We all know he's got the pedigree from his dad, of course, but I just think this is the fight that really brings him up to that A level and makes the Charlo fight even bigger. And of course, we're all backing our man Tim Tszyu down here, and I really think he's going to make a statement against Tony Harrison. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if he stops Harrison in the later rounds. I think this is Tim's fight, and he's geared up for it. There'll be a massive crowd in Sydney. And I would have liked to have been in Melbourne because that's where I'm from, but Sydney's okay. I'll be there as well, and can't wait for it. It's going to be a massive event for Australian boxing. And it's as I said, hopefully we'll make the Charlo fight even bigger down the track.
Okay. Now, Mario, I wasn't on that round table, but I heard what you said on the last round table. Right?
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah, listen, I was shocked that Tim went with Harrison, specifically after, the fact that it was supposed to be Charlo. I think everybody's made the point that, Tim deserves some credit because he's, giving this guy specifically the chance. And listen, I think that people also aren't very aware or haven't seen that Harrison was training. Like, he had been in the gym. You'd seen his IG, like he's been getting ready for a fight. Now, I don't think he was preparing for a massive opportunity like this one, but that's the point that he made at the press conference. It was like weird. The press conference was weird because in one hand, he was like this kid that just got the golden ticket to go into, Willy Wonka's torture factory. But on the other side of it, it was like he just wants to win so bad. And this is his road back to Charlo. I can't remember who made that point earlier, but great point. And it's all kind of roads through it. So I really think Harrison, like, if you're looking for an upset in the first half of the year, this is how I'm going to put it. If you're looking for an upset, if you're looking at something where you got a pretty sure, parlay and you're wanting to throw something to give it a mix, this is a fight you could take. I'm not saying Tim loses. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying this is a really good fight. Whether it's 50-50 or not, Harrison is a live dog.
Okay. All right. Look, I like the press conference. I think Harrison is genuine when he's thankful for the opportunity. He jumped on it right away. As soon as he heard the news, he put his head right in and said, I'll fight Tim. I don't know if he actually expected the call. He did. I heard him in the press conference. He did question the management of Tim Tszyu, like if they made the right choice, but he's not complaining. So at the end of the day, this is going to be a very interesting matchup. I'm looking forward to it. I personally believe Tim will rise to the occasion. He's going to have that energy from the crowd. And I like the fact that it's in an arena. Believe it or not, for those that don't believe me, just listen to people that perform in both arenas and stadiums. They'll tell you it's louder in an arena. Rock bands will tell you, professional wrestlers will tell you, the sound doesn't go up in the sky. It stays inside. And I believe in energy. I think Tim's going to have it that night. And I think he's going to stop Harrison. And Harrison it will be a spirited effort for sure, but I think it's going to be a great fight. And I do think Harrison is a better pure boxer than Charlo. Like he is. Charlo hits harder, right? Charlo has other qualities that maybe Harrison doesn't have, obviously. But in terms of like preparing himself for this fight, it's a different type of matchup for Tim. So I think that's what's going to make it interesting. So I can't wait for this one. All right. Let's go ahead and proceed to the next topic here. All right. Look, I want to segue to this because we're just talking about Harrison. Like Harrison is doing quote unquote trash talk, but it's clean. It revolves around boxing. Of course, he's going to say, I'm going to beat up Tim Tszyu. That's what he's supposed to say, right? Like, it is what it is. Like, of course, he's going to say, oh, your management made a big mistake. That's one thing. This next rivalry, I like the fight. I like the fact that it's a genuine rivalry, right? Benaviez Plant, last week they had the press conference. It's getting very personal, and it's been personal for a long time, right? Plant's been throwing out there, oh, you're a drug addict. Look at you with your cocaine use. And okay, I get it. Plants, even with Canelo, we brought up the positive test or whatnot. But I believe, just in my opinion, Jose Benavides Sr. took it a little too far on Instagram when he made a post and it said the missing story of Caleb Plant. For those that don't know, it's already out there, so I'm just going to put it out there for everybody to know. His ex, they had a child, right? The child unfortunately passed away, right? And she accused Caleb Plant of using the story of their daughter, right? And to, I guess, for whatever she felt, he was telling the wrong story. And she put a very negative light on Caleb. And at this point, it's a he said, she said. What really happened, I have no clue. What I do know is this. You don't bring family into boxing, especially like this is his daughter that passed away. This is a line that I believe was crossed that shouldn't have been crossed. And I just kind of want to know if you guys think, is there a line in boxing? So we've seen fighters cross lines, right? Or is this fair game since Plant brought up the cocaine use and all that? Or is this crossing the line? Let's start with you, Lo.
Yeah, I think it definitely does cross a line. I think that you should allow, I mean, yeah, of course we're going to hear smack talk because it helps build up the fight, but there's no reason to bring family into this. When men go off to war, they leave their women and children at home, and for a reason, they don't need to be involved. I don't think there's any call for that, especially because that's a very deeply personal issue that there's no reason that should ever be even spoken on. I feel like you should be confident enough in your ability, in your boxing ability, to let the rivalry be strong enough that that's where it is. That's where it lies. It does not go beyond that. I think when I heard that though, I think back of like when and I'm not calling this guy a boxer because he's certainly not, but that Charlie Zelenoff and then Deontay Wilder going out and beating his head in. And he deserved it. I think nobody felt bad for that guy. There's real life consequences, though. I mean, I feel like whenever you do cross that line, because there's real emotions involved, and then it starts to not be so logical anymore. And I think just to play it smart and to just play it decent and be a good person, leave that stuff out. I didn't see what Jose Benavides supposedly said. I didn't see anything like that. But if he did say that, I mean, that's no bueno.
D, I think you're on mute.
Oh, my bad. So just to clarify, he made a post on Instagram with Caleb Plant's face and Google, and it said the missing Caleb Plant story. And if you Google that, it takes you to the story of his ex talking about Caleb was too focused on his boxing, and he wasn't even involved in his daughter's life. I don't know why he's using my daughter's name and all that. So I just think that's what it was about. But Lyndon, well, do you think this is a little too far? Is it fair game since?
No, I don't think it's fair game. I think it's way too far. I think we all expect the banter and maybe a bit of trash talk at the press conference, maybe a bit of pushing and shoving, whatever it might be. But I think as long as we keep it within the boxing realms, I just don't like when they cross it, whether it be drug use or in this particular case, which is just shocking if you ask me. But I don't know. We've all seen it before. We've all been around boxing a long time. We're used to it. And I know they do it to build the fight up with maybe the casuals out there. I don't think it really gets us boxing fans any more excited. I don't think we're going to watch the fight regardless. But I just think when you step over that line, especially in this case, that's really bad. And I think there just probably needs to be a little bit more guidance and advice from some of the, they've all got teams of advisors and managers and everyone else involved to maybe give them a little bit of media training, I suppose, and just where to go and where not to go. And I understand that it does get heated sometimes, but as I said, as a boxing fan, it does nothing for me. It's probably put a bad taste in my mouth. I'll still watch it, but I just don't think they need to do it. And I just think in years gone by, there was always the banter and everything else, but they did it respectfully. And I just think in this day and age, we've just gone a little bit too far. We just have to pull it back.
Okay. Joe, what are your thoughts, brother?
Yeah, Benavides Sr., he behaved very poorly that whole press conference. He's sitting there calling Caleb Plant names, and Caleb Plant rightly said, I mean, I'm not fighting you, I'm fighting your son. But, at the end of it all, it was a 19-year-old little baby girl that lost her life. And to even bring that up in a hateful, mean-spirited way, it really says something about the character of a person who would do that. And I don't know Benavides Senior. I mean, we've had David on the show a couple times. David seems like a very nice person, and even David was telling Dad, let him talk, let him talk. I don't even think David was happy with what his father said. I think he looked a little bit uncomfortable and awkward too. So I just never like it when the trainers like Danny Garcia's dad, he gets involved too. I just let the fighters do their thing, man. You can't live vicariously through your son. I just never liked that, and I just think it was a very, very bad look for Benavides Senior. And I hope he looks at what he did and reflects on it, and hopefully he just doesn't do it again. And just let these two guys duke it out in the ring. Let them settle it. It's between your son and Caleb, and just get out the way. It's as simple as that. And just don't say ridiculous, mean-spirited, heartless things like that, because it does nothing to make the fight bigger at all. It only puts a damper on things and makes you look bad. It's just a bad look all around.
You're on mute again, D.
Just for the record, yeah, I'll point this up. He has not deleted the post yet. It's still up there. And it does read, you forgot to put that one on your story, Caleb Plant, so we could see the type of man you really are. Mario, what are your thoughts, brother?
Yeah, look, I think everybody's right here. It was disgusting. It definitely crossed the line. Look, I'm a pro wrestling fan, okay? Anything for the pop, anything for the sell. Kayfabe all day, all right? But when you cross that line, you got to remember that this isn't a fight. This isn't a schoolyard brawl. We're not meeting at the flea market to throw chingazos. Like, this is a situation where you're doing business with these people. So for you to make this case, and for you to throw this out for Senior to do that, you have to understand, you're not trying to vindicate a victim or standing up for any rights. You're doing business with the person that you claim is a bad person. So what does that say about you ultimately? Goes back to what Kanye was saying when he was shitting on the entire rap game for 3 months. And it's how many platinum records do you have making millions off those same rappers that use that content? You want to virtue signal and throw this shit at the fan. And ultimately I never do that because my closet's not clean. And there are bodies. And so at the end of the day, I'm not going to talk shit about anybody's personal stuff because I don't want anybody to talk shit about my personal stuff. And you don't know the situation. You want to make it, black and white. But let me tell you, for those of us who have seen or have been in these situations, those are the most complicated moments in anyone's life. Man, woman, it does not matter. And for you to try to judge somebody based off of the worst moment in their life, I just hope that nobody does that to you. But karma's a bitch.
Preach.
Man. All right. So look, I don't want to play devil's advocate before I go to Easy Raw, but did Plant open a Pandora's box by making it personal? And is this fair game? Easy Raw, what do you think?
So I think it's two different conversations. The press conference I thought was a good press conference. I'll be honest with you. I thought that definitely sold the fight. There's no doubt. There's no. I don't. If you're offended by that, I don't think you should be probably watching boxing because this is what the sport really is. You're two men going in there, and I promise you, in their mind, they're thinking of doing some dark things to each other. Okay, so they just happen to vocalize it in that press conference. Now, what I don't like as a man, I don't like Senior talking this big game because he never has to own up to it. See, he never has to go in that ring and actually pay those dues for what he says. He never has to back it up. I don't like that because, see, I've been in the ring before, and I know that what you say when you're in that ring, there's no way out of it, right? What is Teddy Atlas called, the Chamber of Truth or whatever slogan he has for it. But there's truth to it. You can't get out of it. So I don't like that. Now, as far as the post, of course, that's extremely inappropriate. Should have never happened. And, it's a terrible thing to do. You're talking about a child and someone lost it and you don't know the story. Like you said, everybody's saying it shouldn't be talked about. They should leave it to the fight. And like I said, I have no problem of the fighters saying whatever they want to each other. And that definitely sells the fight, and it definitely builds it up, and it definitely got me really excited for this fight because I think these guys generally dislike each other, and I really want to see what they're going to do each other in the ring. So, yeah, I'm not going to lie and say that doesn't sell the fight. It definitely sells the fight. Now, I just think that Senior shouldn't be opening his mouth because he never has to pay those dues.
Well said. MC, how you feeling?
I agree with Easy. I think the father is not the one having to step into the ring. However, I do have one question. Why did none of this stuff come out when he fought Canelo? Why did the ex-wife did not come out back then? Because this is a story, as far as Caleb Plant's daughter, this is a story that we've heard about ever, even before the Canelo fight, which was even on a bigger, I would say, stage. So why did this lady not come forward back then? I don't understand that. I think that's like a question that I have personally.
Well, I just want to clarify just to clarify real quick.
Yeah.
It's an old story. The story was by nyfights.com, right? So the story's there, okay? And his ex basically came out because the PBC had done a story about him and how he's dedicating, winning the belt to his deceased daughter, and she didn't like the fact that Plant was saying it since he wasn't quote unquote there for them when she was having the problems with the child. I just think that's like a personal matter that shouldn't have been out there, but I just wanted to clarify that really quick.
And when that article was reading, that's my question. Was this article reading 4 years ago and he did it? Or was this article reading?
No, it's been out there. It's been out there, MC.
Yeah, I think it was published. I have it right here.
It's an old story. It's an old story that Benaviez Senior tried to rehash.
Exactly.
He dubbed. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's not a good look. You don't need to go look for stuff like that. Now, unfortunately, it's not like Plant is sitting there and saying, you know what God says when they slap you in one cheek, give them the other one, right? But Caleb Plant is also not doing that. So Caleb Plant can't completely be victimizing himself either and saying, oh, you keep talking about my daughter, but guess what? On the day of the fight, I'm going to make weight and I'm not going to fail my drug test. Do you think that David Benavidez' son is not going to eventually hear that his daddy popped positive for a coke? That's not something that his family probably doesn't want to hear, even though it did happen. So they're both trenching on it's a very thin line. However, I think the fans are, like you said, we're like watching it. So I don't know. I hope it doesn't get as bad in the next press conference.
All right. Now, Chicken Talks, I appreciate the super chat. He says, Low and Easy Raw and MC. And he says, hello. Shout out to Chicken Talk Boxing. Catch them on Twitter. They do their thing. Shout out to them. Shout out to everybody, by the way. I'll just say this really quick. All I know is there's way too many people giving their opinion on Caleb Plant and his deceased daughter on the internet. And I don't like it. Because you guys don't know the story. You don't know if she's telling the truth, he's telling the truth. And I don't care because from what I understand, she said he was so focused on his boxing, he refused to leave tournaments and stuff like that to go spend time with her while she was dealing with their sick daughter. That's just very personal stuff. It's very personal stuff. And I don't care if even if all that's true, he lost his daughter. I can imagine a bigger pain than that. And that's just not something to bring it up in that way. Basically saying you're a piece of shit. Look at your real story when you don't even know the story. I mean, I don't even know what to say about that, but
well said.
Stuff
whether
like
the
this.
ex-wife is right or Caleb, honestly, and no one needs to discuss it because they're not involved emotionally or they were never physically involved. And really, people need to understand their criticisms are not important enough to be voiced.
And just to play devil's advocate, because we don't know what happened, but what if Caleb's out there trying to make a living so he can support the family? You know what I mean? He's out there trying to better himself because he's got to be the provider too. You know what I mean? So we got to take that into consideration too. I mean, obviously I don't know the whole story, but that's something else that's not really being mentioned or looked at. I mean, as you know, he's trying to provide a life for his daughter and the mother. So.
And from our perspective, I just want to put this out here, okay? Because I know, Lyndon's been around long enough that he remembers Beeb too. I mean, all y'all probably know, but I'm old enough that I remember the riot on HBO. Like, I remember the Maidana Mayweather shit. Like, I remember, I just not that long ago, Jake Paul and Diaz. Like, when you start gang banging for these fighters and it starts becoming such big animosity that it basically turns tribes against each other, like, that's when it's too far, right? Like, I agree, anything to sell a fight. I'm a pro wrestling fan, like I said. But when it becomes so toxic that I don't want to go to the fight because I don't want to end up in another fight or, you know, involved in something else. And that's what ultimately happens when they cross these lines. You know, some people don't have the ability to just rub it off. You know, kudos to, I remember Broner and Paulie, like they were able to kind of just let it be, but that shit got almost really too far. And so, you know, it's not good.
All I know is when I hear Harrison talk trash, I get pumped. I get excited about the fight. You know what I mean?
Great point.
When I see stuff like this, it becomes uncomfortable.
Yes,
I like.
Thank you.
There's a different feeling. You know what I mean?
It's uncomfortable.
It's venomous.
Like, man, why you got to kill the vibe with that shit, bro?
Yeah,
like,
killing
you
the
trying to
vibe,
watch
bro.
a sport. Like, you over here talking about like people's most depressing moments and shit. It's like,
Yeah,
talking
like,
about my
just,
parents dying. Like, that's weird. Like,
that's crazy. Hey, but I want to move on to this here. As we all know, there used to be only eight divisions in the sport of boxing. Just 8. And there was only one belt. And just fun fact, Henry Armstrong held the featherweight, the lightweight, okay, and the welterweight championship, and he got robbed, okay, for the middleweight title. He almost had 4, but he had 3, and at one point, one of them was vacant. So there was only 7 champions, and he had 3 of the belts. Only 7 belts. He had 3 of them. Almost half of all the belts in boxing were held by Henry Armstrong. That is amazing. Okay, with that said, we're going to start with the heavyweight division. Okay, we're going to start with you, Lo. If there was only 8 divisions, there was only one belt at heavyweight today, who would be the current reigning heavyweight champion of this world?
Obviously it would be Fury or Usyk. And I'm waiting to see that fight happen before I make that call because that's a 50-50 fight to me. I don't think Fury's been tested against a guy who moves like that. I don't think
we're going to put you on the spot and say you have to pick a current heavyweight champion.
I have to.
There has to only be one. There's only one champion.
Okay.
Unless you're going to say it was vacant, but we're not going to vacant belts.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
I'll say Fury.
Fury will be okay. All right. Lyndon, who would be the current heavyweight champ?
Yeah, Tyson Fury for me. I think he was the lineal champion, beat Klitschko, and he's Wilder 2 out of 3 times. I think as good as Usyk is, beating Joshua twice is obviously a great accomplishment. But Tyson Fury for me, I think he's the heavyweight champion.
All right, chat. Let us know what you think, babe. I already know the answer. But go ahead.
You know the answer already. Tyson Fury.
That's it for you. Okay. Mario, any switch up or you got Fury too?
You know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna say Usyk, and I don't care.
Come on, Mario.
I don't care. I don't care. I know Fury's the number one guy, but come on, guys. Usyk is a dude who came from cruiserweight and moved up and did all this. And when we make these lists, that's all I can think about, and it's hard to give heavyweights credit.
Okay. All right. We got one for Usyk, one for the good guy. Easy Raw. Who would be the current heavyweight champ?
I just want to say, because I did this whole practice, so I know we're going to go down all the weights, but I do want to just point out that when you have less weight divisions, you lose a lot of really good fighters. So I just wanted to point out that it is good news that we have more weight divisions. It's actually positive for boxing. But it is Tyson Fury. It's not going to be a middleweight, as he says, in Usyk. It's going to be Tyson Fury. He's one of the all-time great heavyweights of all time. So
all-time great. He's an all-time great.
Man, he already won the MC. Who would be the current heavyweight champion of this world?
Tyson Fury, of course.
Man, she said, "Of course," like it's common sense or something. You know what I mean? Like everybody knows. Let me tell you something.
He's the guy that beat the guy.
She knows.
She said it like Mario's a fucking idiot. No,
but the guy was Joshua with all those belts, and then Usyk beat him. You know what I mean? Like I'm just saying.
Until they come to America,
Wilder wouldn't have been the lineal champion. Wilder would have never have done that, right? So like who would he have beat? Like, I'm just saying. And then he retired. He would have came back, and Usyk would have had the belts. Usyk would be the current heavyweight champion of the world right now. And there was only one belt. Putting that out there.
Then let's see
Who's your
it.
pick? Who's your pick?
Yeah.
Yeah, for real, right?
Usyk. Right. We're going to bounce it the opposite way. MC, who would be the current light heavyweight champion of the world today? There was only one.
Is that 175, right? Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
light
175.
heavyweight?
Uh-huh.
I would have to say that's another very hard one to me. That was the fight. That was my most anticipated fight. Bivol versus Arthur. That is like my top fight. I don't even care. Screw Tank and Ryan. I'm over it. Spence and Crawford, over it. Give me Arthur versus Bivol. And honestly, I think Bivol will have to be the most. I even see Benavides going up there, guys, honestly. But I mean, he hasn't fought there yet. But I do think he will have to be Arthur.
Arthur better be. Okay, all right. Now just consider that the 168 pounders right now would be campaigning at 175, maybe some small cruiserweights too. Just putting that out there. Yeah. But Easy Raw, who would be the current light heavyweight champion of the world?
Yeah. This is, to me, a lot easier than I think most people think, but I think it's Bivol. I think Bivol would box circles around Benaviez. I think that people are making Benaviez to be something. He's a very good fighter. He's just, to me, not that level. To me, I think that he fights he doesn't, to me, the competition is not that great that he's fighting, I'll be honest with you. And I think Bivol just has abilities that he just doesn't have. So I'll take Bivol on that.
All right. Mario.
I think it's tough. Listen, if you're picking Bivol, it has to be because you think he's just that good, like upper echelon, like, rare air type stuff. Because Benaviez is great, but I have to go with Bivol. Even though Benaviez has the belts, even though he seems to have the momentum right now, I just think he's just too tough to beat.
Okay. Joe.
Gotta go with Benaviez. He's got that fight-changing power. He's a very underrated boxer. Guy doesn't stop. Keeps coming at you. It's like that movie. Remember when Apollo Creed's trainer said to Apollo when he was getting ready to fight Rocky, and the second he signed to fight him in the rematch, he goes, "That man kept coming after you, and you hit him with everything, and he just kept coming after you." That's Benaviez.
That was great dialogue.
Yeah. Okay. Lyndon.
Oh, this is a really, really tough one. Both similar resumes, but I've got to go with Bivol for me. I think if they did fight, I think Bivol wins a close decision, and based on that, I think for me he would be the light heavyweight champion.
Okay. Low. Talk to us.
I say Bivol as well. I just, you all said it best. There's really nothing left for me to say. I just think that, he's got it.
Okay. All right. I agree. I think Bivol would be the current light heavyweight champion of the world. I don't see a 168 pounder or 175 pounder that could beat him right now. So that's that. Easy Raw. We're going to go to middleweight, 160 pounds.
Okay. So this is going to be the current one where I'm choosing a guy that's coming up. I'm going to take Charlo. I think Charlo would be the middleweight champ. I think if he moved up right now, he'd be the middleweight champ. But there's nothing at middleweight for him. That's why it hasn't happened. But yeah, I think it'd be Charlo.
Interesting. Beeb.
Crazy as this may sound, I still think Gennady Golovkin's the man at middleweight until someone beats him at middleweight.
What?
I think Gennady Golovkin's still the man.
I just want to remind 154 doesn't exist, so those guys, small 168 pounders, will be competing.
I don't think Jamel beats Gennady Golovkin. I don't.
Okay. All right.
I don't think so.
The old man will be the champ. All right.
The old man still got it.
Look, I've got to agree with BB. I think Triple G for me still the champion. I know we lost to Canelo at super middleweight. I don't think anyone's really been able to beat him at middleweight. Charlo, I think, way too inactive. I don't think he can even come in consideration at the moment. It was been 18 months or something out of it. And as I said, until someone actually beats Triple G at middleweight, I think he's still the man.
Okay. MC. What you got at middleweight?
I think she froze.
We'll come back to her. Low. What do you got at middleweight?
I'm gonna have to say Charlo. That's it. That's just plain and simple.
Which one?
I feel like Jamel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? The people picking his brother over the one that's actually there. But it's warranted. It's warranted.
Okay. All right. Let's go with Mario.
So I would actually go with Triple G because I think we and Linda made great points. But knowing what I know about boxing, I know that if boxing were to go to 8 weight classes, there is no way that anybody that has to deal with giving out belts would not allow Canelo to have one. So Canelo's my middleweight champion because they're going to find a way to put it on him.
Okay. All right. I mean, if there was only 8 weight classes, Canelo would still be campaigning at 160 pounds.
Yeah, I think he could still, but even if he couldn't, I think they'd find a way, Thurman, Spence, WBC style.
No, I think Canelo would be the current middleweight champion of the world.
Yeah, you might be right. I wouldn't even argue that. It's just, the point I'm making is by hook or by crook. Really, you know what I mean? Like he either wins it or they find a way to.
I'm just giving my opinion on what. That's all.
No, I agree with you.
But isn't 168 closer to 175 than 160?
So?
Mathematically, but I think when you think about
having
a campaign at 175,
I don't think he'd fight at 160. I think he'd fight.
You think he'd campaign at 175 over dropping and taking that weight?
He would make the weight cut.
I think he'd make the weight cut. B.
Do you? I don't know.
I mean, he lost to Bill already. All he's got left to do is fight a guy that you think is even better than him. You know what I'm saying? Like, where's the money? Where's the money fights at in that weight class? Where are you going to get your opportunities? They're far and few between, and they're very dangerous fighters. You could go to 160, fight 4 times, and half of those fights you could find, yourself a Harrison.
Yeah, let me just put it this way: look at an old 40-year-old Nonito Donaire, still making 118 pounds. Even though he went up to 126, and it's how to make the weight. But I mean, for Canelo, it would be go to 175 or cut away to make 160. If he had to, he would do 160, in my opinion. But
I think he would too.
I think Canelo would be the 160-pound champion of the world. It's my opinion. But back to you, Mario. Who would be the welterweight champion of the world?
Oh man, I put Spence Crawford. And I know you're going to make me pick one. So I'm just going to go Crawford because he was the guy I had in that position, 5 years ago. And he's still that guy until they fight each other. And I know definitively one is better than the other. I'm just going to keep going with the guy that I assumed the whole time.
Okay. All right. Low, middleweight champion of the world.
I am so on the fence with this one. Obviously it's between Spencer Crawford. I don't know. I don't know. I'm like,
the 140 pounders are campaigning there too, but
I'm gonna say Crawford until
these are all good picks.
Show me something different.
These are all good picks.
Lyndon, welterweight champion of the world.
Oh, this was probably the toughest one out of all of them, to be honest. But look, I'm going to go against the grain. I'm going to pick Spence. I just don't know. Sorry, B. I just don't know. If they do fight, I got no idea who wins that fight. That's why it needs to happen. But I just think at that weight, Spencer's resume is a little bit better, although they're very similar. And just a gut feeling, I'm going to go with Errol Spence as the man.
Hey, Beeb.
I may be in the minority here in my assessment. I think Terrence Crawford handily beats Spence. I think he handily beats him.
Handily.
It's my opinion.
So that's your champion?
I don't even think it's close. He's my champion.
Whoa.
Okay.
Bold statement. But, yeah.
I originally broke this fight down, I always had Crawford winning it. In my maybe controversial opinion, I don't think he wants that fight for whatever reason. I think he does everything to get out of that fight. But if they fought each other, I always had Crawford. I still stick with Crawford.
Okay. I'm going to say Crawford, and let me tell you why, right? In this fictional world that I've created, Crawford would have been a welterweight for years now. Because when he was the undisputed 140-pound champion, even then, I believe he was better than the welterweights at the time. Right? Even then, right? So I think Crawford, not only would he be the current welterweight champion of the world, he would have been a very long reigning current welterweight champion of the world right now, like for a good 8 years or something at this point, in my opinion, if we only have one division. But I'm going to say Crawford and a long reigning one at that, right? Back to you, Raw. Let's go with lightweight.
At lightweight, I've always had this guy's the best. I always said if they had a tournament, he would win. Tank Davis would be the lightweight champ of the world.
Okay. All right. Okay. Joe.
Let's say Devin Haney. Devin Haney.
Okay. Sticking with Devin. Okay. All right. Lyndon.
I agree. He's got all 4 belts now, and I don't think it'll change if he fought any of those other guys. I think Devin Haney clearly undisputed for me.
Okay. All right. Low.
I mean, it comes down to me between Tank and Haney. This is another one. I feel like you're peer pressuring me into choosing somebody, so I'm not happy with you right now. But
you could throw Shakur in there too if you want. You could throw Shakur.
Hello, can you go?
Yo, why are you making this harder?
Trying to help you out. You could throw Shakur in there if you want.
My gut is saying Tank.
Tank, okay. All right.
Tank's
The
got
power.
two.
He has the power.
Mario.
See, I thought I understood the assignment. Now I don't know if I understood it. Like, if I'm gonna go on like who I think could, win, I would have done it differently. As far as who I consider is the champion and would be the champion, I think it's
like
easy.
this.
It's Devin Haney.
I mean,
right?
it's simple
because that's what
Mario.
That's the assignment.
Like if we only had 8 belts and
Yeah.
there was a lightweight, who would be the current lightweight champion?
Devin Haney.
Whatever criteria
Devin
you want to
Haney.
put, it's up to you.
Got you. Devin Haney, I think, is the answer.
Devin Haney, okay. Man.
I don't think there are a lot of wrong answers, though. Honestly,
No, there's no wrong answers here.
I don't
Yeah,
think there are a lot.
I gotta
Not
go.
in this division.
Yeah,
I'm
lightweight.
gonna
No one's proven. I feel
No
like
one's
there's a
proven.
lot of
Even
things
even
that
with
need to be
even with
answered in
Haney
this
with 4
division.
belts, even when
I'm
Haney's
gonna
4 belts, it's
say-
still
Oh,
not proven.
dicey. Yeah.
I'm gonna say, believe it or not, that the current lightweight champion, if there was only 1 belt, it would be Shakur Stevenson, and let me explain why. Okay,
Love it.
because in this world, he would have already been campaigning at 135, and him and Haney would have crossed paths before they got to the title shot. And I think Shakur wins that fight, and I think Shakur would have beaten whoever was the champion. I would have Shakur Stevenson as the current lightweight champion of the world right now, and I think he'll be the lightweight champ by next year. He's going to be the undisputed lightweight champion if Haney's still around. If not, he'll get one of the belts, but we'll see what happens.
Hold on.
But I
Dude,
think that's what's going to happen.
let me ask you a question, though. Are you saying that Shakur wins based off of him having – because he would have had to moved up to have beaten Haney by now, right? So you're
I'm saying
that
130 pounds wouldn't exist is what I'm saying. So when he moved up from
so
featherweight,
he would have went straight up. And so you think
yes.
upon moving straight up, he would have had beaten Devin at
Yes.
that time. Oh, got you. Okay.
Yes, that's what I think. Right.
I like that.
All right. So we're going to start with you, Lo, for the next division. Featherweight. Who you got?
I wrote it down because I wrote down my reasoning for this, and I have to read it. Oscar Valdez beats Navarrette clear as day.
Okay. So we got Valdez as the featherweight champ?
Yep.
Okay. All right. He'll make the weight cut for sure. He'll be a big one, featherweight too. That's a good answer, actually. Joe Habib, featherweight champion of the world.
I'm going to say Shakur Stevenson because I don't think he would have moved up right to 135. I think he would have waited a little bit and he still would have been a featherweight. I'm going to say Shakur Stevenson. That's my
He's
featherweight
big
champ.
for 130, bro. Okay.
It's 4 pounds. I think he could squeeze it.
I can't say. I mean, I said Canelo, right? So I can't say otherwise.
Yeah.
Mario, what do you got?
His name is Stephen Fulton.
Whoa!
And he has done everything to prove he is one of the best lower weight class fighters in boxing today. He's already become that champ. So they just hand it back to him because he's already done it.
All right. Lyndon, who you got?
I'm glad we're able to bring the middle sort of tier fighters up or down, which is good. That makes the job a little bit easier. But I agree with Lo. I think Oscar Valdez, the weight might be an issue as far as making it consistently, but I think if he can make it, if it's one or the other, I'm going to go with Oscar Valdez as well. I agree. I think he beats Navarrette very convincingly.
Okay, all right. I like how somebody said, let's go to the fantasy boxing world. It needs to come with a rule book. I mean, hey, they make their own rules. Easy Raw, who will be the featherweight champion of the world, brother?
I think it's a 2-horse race, and it's between Ray Vargas and Stephen Fulton. and it's Stephen Fulton for me. I think Stephen Fulton could be the best fighter in the world. I think that his fight with Inoue could possibly prove he's the best fighter in the world. I felt that since he schooled Daniel Roman. And yeah, I'm really high on Stephen Fulton.
Yeah.
I think that I just think he's one of the great talents we have. So it's between him and Ray Vargas, who I think is really, really underrated as well. So that's why I would pick.
Think he beats Inoue? You think he beats Inoue easy?
I don't know if he beats Inoue. Inoue could be. Inoue probably is the best fighter in the world. So if he loses to him, he just probably lost the best fight in the world. But I think he's in the conversation. That's why I think that fight's so great.
Okay.
All right. I will say, I just really quick, I really wish Roman didn't retire just because he lost to Fulton. I think he's still a top 5 fighter in that division. I wish he would have stuck around, to be honest, but it is what it is. I had another name, but I actually like Fulton. I like Fulton as a featherweight champion of the world. I'm going to say Fulton.
Who was your other name?
I was going to say Navarrette, believe it or not, but you know what? I don't even know he could make 130 anymore. So like
yeah,
bro, that was a legit weight. Like,
that was a good point. Right? That's a good point.
Yeah, so too many tacos for Navarrete. It wasn't even Thanksgiving weekend.
I don't know what it was, but bro.
Yeah, so I like Fulton. Okay, now let's go ahead. Let's go to bantamweight, 118 pounds. Lyndon, who would be the bantamweight champion of the world? This might be the easiest one, actually.
No contest. In a way, just by the length of the straight. No contest, in a way.
Babe?
Inoue, of course.
Mario?
Inoue, of course. Easiest one to pick.
Man, Low?
It's going to be controversial, but anyway.
That was good. I was waiting, but I was like, wait.
You never know. Easy.
I was waiting for Nonito Donaire or something.
I know. I was like, let's make it good. Here we go.
It's clean sweep Inoue.
Is it a sweep?
Oh no! Don't.
You know, like when he sweep, like you know when there's always that little line that you can't quite, and you're trying to sweep it all up, and there's always that little line of sand.
Stop being a contrarian. Just
no, there wasn't because you know Gallo is trying to explain. I got it.
Tell the truth. Stop being a contrarian.
I love Gallo, but I don't think he beats Inoue, so I'm gonna go with Inoue. So with that, Inoue, moving on. Back to you, Easy Raw. Flyweight.
I think this is between two men. I think it's between Sonny and Bam, but I'm gonna take Bam. I think Bam would be the flyweight champion of the world. Okay, all right. Low.
I'm gonna have to go with Sonny.
Sunny days. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Mario.
Sunny days, champ.
You gotta be a wrestling fan to get
champ. That. Come on, champ. Listen, I'm gonna.
Hey, what shirt do you have on?
Hey, you
we
know
that some sunny days, my friend.
Some sunny days. Hey, that's good, bro. That's really good. I didn't even catch that. Yo, listen, I'm gonna make this a little spicier just to mix things up. I'm going with Kenshiro. You know, he beat his number one, his Joker. All right, he beat the Joker to his Batman. And listen, I've just been a big fan of his for a long time. I think that he's an underrated fighter. He started getting that recognition a few years ago, and he's a world talent. He's just a small guy. That's what it is. If he had pop, you know, he'd be one of the most talked about fighters on the planet.
Okay. All right. Babe. Oh,
gotta be Bam Rodriguez. Gotta be Bam Rodriguez. For me.
It doesn't have to be, but okay.
For me it does. You're
not gonna get arrested if you don't pick Bam.
I'm under contract. I gotta pick Bam Rodriguez.
All right. Lyndon, who you got, brother?
Look, this is another dicey one as well, because you could maybe throw in Chocolatito or Estrada, maybe. Who knows if they could make the weight? But look, I'm going to go with Bam Rodriguez as well. I think if you had to throw them all in the mix and it was a little mini tournament, I think he'd come out on top. Great young talent.
I do think the toughest fight for Bam would be Sonny, though. That's Sonny's right there too.
I want to make it clear, I didn't pick Bam because I don't. In my world, he's not campaigning at flyweight. I think that he's a guy that's going to be up at some point, and that's why I went with Kenshiro. Okay. To me, flyweight's always easier to make. Like, you coming up, right? Those lower weight classes, that's why those guys win so many titles. That's why Manny Pacquiao did that, right? It's like you moving up those weight classes seems to be a lot easier than when you get heavier, at least from my time watching the sport.
Mario, can I make an observation?
Of course.
I feel like you have the ability to create this fantasy world in your head to the level of J.K. Rowling, and I applaud you for that.
Oh, that is
Right.
like the coolest thing anyone's ever said to me on a boxing. But I'm like, I love Harry Potter, so that's like,
you're putting a lot of considerations that I didn't think about. So
I appreciate
it's
that. Thank
cool.
you so much.
Mario
Like-
used to be a writer.
I was
He's very analytical.
I
Very.
went to
All
school for
that-
English, not journalism.
all that analytical thinking just to disqualify Bam because he has some gripe against him. I don't know what it is, but in all seriousness,
I think you're playing.
I would say Gallo Estrada, but he's too old at this point. I don't think he would make that weight. That's whatever, but I'm gonna have to go with Bam Rodriguez. I think he would be.
I thought you were gonna say Eric Morales.
You know what I mean?
He loves Eric
Man.
Morales.
Well, I ain't never fought that low anyway, but.
He's got a Eric Morales
coming
poster in his bedroom.
Maybe we could bring Rafael Marquez back from retirement. You know what I mean? But
goat.
with that said, let's go ahead and proceed, guys. And thanks to the chat for contributing there. A lot of good names out there. I think a lot of people like even the chat. It was a sweep at 118 for Inoue. So there you go. Fury didn't get the sweep, Beeb. Sorry, I'm just gonna put that out there. Right? I'm just saying. All right.
That's great, though. That's great that he didn't, because that means there's a lot to be proven at that weight still.
Of course, that makes the fight
100%.
bigger. It makes the fight bigger.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about Anthony Joshua versus Jermaine Franklin. Are we all pumped? I'm excited about this fight. This is Matchroom Eddie Hearn. They're giving us this is the road to redemption. I'm pumped. Now, you guys ain't cooperating, but Lo, what you think of the Franklin AJ fight? What you think?
I don't understand the criticism that AJ's getting for taking this fight. I mean, he just lost 2 back-to-back fights against Usyk. Why would you want to throw him back in there with a monster? You look at Wilder, he just fought Helenius, and everyone was so happy about that. He had a great homecoming, and as he should. There's just no reason, to throw him to the wolves just yet. He's still got a career. He needs to, get his legs back about him, I guess. And then also Franklin, he's probably really excited about this. I want to see what he can do against, a world champion level. So I'm excited for this, actually.
Okay. All right. Lyndon, are you excited for this fight?
I must admit, I yawned when I saw the fight announced. But however, I do agree with Lowe that it is a really good fight for AJ at this stage. He's obviously coming off 2 losses. He needs a win. And I think Franklin's that ideal opponent for him. Look, he can punch, but he's not a big puncher. He's obviously a lot shorter. I think he's the ideal opponent for AJ to get a win on the board. A credible opponent as well. And good matchmaking. But as the fight itself, I'm not sure I'll be counting down the days, put it that way.
All right. Isara, what you think of the matchup when you heard it?
I think the zone's doing their best impersonation of squeezing out the toothpaste out of a tube, just see how much they can get out of Joshua before they sign that massive deal. They need to get every cent out of him. They're gonna get this fight, then you're gonna get Dylan White in the summer, and then they're gonna try to sell you that they're trying to make Wilder or trying to make Fury, and then probably just another opponent similar to this. It's an all right fight. I mean, for a tune-up fight, for whatever, it's all right. You know what I mean? There's nothing. Don't wow me, but it could be a lot worse.
It's like when you get the bottom part of your toothbrush and you just get the edge and just
you got to get that last part out. You get your dollar's worth.
Yeah, for sure. Mario, are you cutting the tooth? Are you cutting it? Are you cutting the tube and just scraping off whatever's left or what?
Oh, bro, come on! In this recession time, we cutting the tube. We turn it inside out, scraping off the excess. No, listen, I think that I do understand why people are upset, because it's the exact thing that happens anytime a marquee fighter doesn't fight, one of the best or biggest names. And, people just have to remember, football, baseball, basketball, they all have their schedules. They don't play the number 1 teams every week. Some weeks The Cowboys play terrible teams. Some they play the best teams. Like, that's the way it works. And he has a plan. Eddie Hearn said that this is a road back to the championship. I think if they were trying to really squeeze out Joshua, they'd be trying to cash him out immediately against Wilder or something like this. But the fact that they're bringing him back, that's making money too, with 3 fights on the rising. But he's got to win them. You know what I mean? He doesn't get to Wilder if he can't beat Franklin. So I think ultimately this is all setting up for bigger fights down the road. So I'm not upset.
Okay. All right. Babe, I know you're excited about this one. Like, you're in glee.
I don't hate this fight at all. I had Franklin Dillian White a dead draw. I think Franklin fought a beautiful fight against
Great
Dillian
point.
White. I thought he looked like he was very slick in that fight. Great counter punching, great head movement. This guy is very tricky.
The word "great's" being thrown out a little too much. I'm just saying.
That's the beautiful thing about this sport. It's so subjective, right? So like I said, I think he's a very difficult style for Joshua. He gets low, moves his head. He can fight on the inside, very versatile. I think this is a fight that you have to favor Joshua, but I don't think this is a fight Joshua looks good in, to be very honest with you. Everyone's like, oh, he needs a big knockout to come back. I don't think he knocks out Franklin. I think Franklin's actually live in this fight. I think this is very, very awkward style for Joshua. This is a style where he may get frustrated, and he's going to probably try to blow him out of there, and that's probably going to be to his detriment, because that's going to be what Jermaine Franklin's looking for. He's the guy that's the slick guy who's going to kind of, wait in the cut. He's going to want Joshua to come to him, just like Dillian White came to him. And what did he do? Counterpunched him, slipped and moved. And people talk about the chin of Franklin, but the thing is he's got great timing. He rolls those shots beautifully. It's how to roll shots. He wasn't getting hit flush until the 12th round against Dillian White. So I think Joshua's going to have a hard time hitting Franklin flush. I really do. I think this is going to be a very interesting matchup.
Very interesting. Yeah, I think AJ's going to knock him out like in 5 rounds flat. But we'll see. We'll see. I just think AJ can crack, and I just don't. The offensive arsenal of AJ is at a whole different level to Dillian White, and I think AJ's going to hurt him and drop him early and stop him in the mid rounds. My opinion, but I don't hate the fight, because people are right when they say, look, he's coming off 2 losses. He has every right to have a bounce back fight, get that confidence back. I don't mind the fight or anything. Now, I want to ask the panel really quick. I'll bounce it back to you, Beeb. Just today, Eddie Hearn came out and he said, hey, I want to work with Ngannou. I think him and AJ is a blockbuster fight. Is that a fight you'd like to see?
I don't mind it. Yeah, I'd watch it.
Is that a step down from Martin? Or Franklin, I'm sorry.
Franklin,
step down from Franklin, my bad.
In terms of skill, yeah, absolutely, it's a step down from Franklin. Franklin's a good fighter, man. I know you don't like the guy, and I don't know.
I don't dislike
something about the guy you don't like. I don't know. Maybe he said something to you in passing. I don't know, but he's a good fighter.
But no, I don't have anything against the guy. I'm just saying I'm comparing him to AJ.
You want to downplay the guy's skills? I mean, the guy.
Look, you put me in the ring with him, he'll knock me out. But he's gonna fight. He's not gonna fight me. He's gonna fight AJ. I'm just saying.
It was like a 10-1 underdog against Dillian White, man.
All right, that's for a reason. But
you got to give him credit. Went to the belly of the beast. Went into foreign territory.
All right.
Eked out a draw.
Mario Munguia, former UFC heavyweight champ against AJ. I mean, Eddie Hearn's really keen on that fight. He says he really wants to work with Ngannou.
Yeah, see, I think that would be definitely cashing AJ out. Not because I don't think he'd win or lose. I'm just saying, like, that. See, those fights seem like they should be happening at the end of people's careers, right? Like Mayweather, he's not competing anymore with, the Spences and Thurmans of the world. So then, yeah, do whatever you want. I don't have to buy it or watch. I don't care. You're not taking up Showtime budget or DAZN budget. Really, not really. So I don't care. But Ngannou, like, is there an interest? Yes, of course there's an interest. 2 of the biggest human beings to ever lace up gloves professionally fighting sign me up. But I don't want it to interfere or get in the way with any of the real big, meaningful fights like Usyk Fury and like even bigger, perhaps Wilder AJ. So don't get in the way of that, and I'll order the pay-per-view.
Okay. Easy Raw and Ngannou AJ. Would that intrigue you? That would happen this year, for example?
I love the thing is I love boxing in all forms. I'll watch two bums fight over a can of soup. So I love everything that comes with just fighting, right? But yeah, I think I like events, and I think that would be a massive event, and it's a lot bigger event than I imagine because everyone's calling on Ngannou. So everyone must realize that there's some money there to be made with him. I think it's a big event, and Ngannou is a fighter. He's not good. He might not be a high level boxer, but he's a fighter. He's not a YouTuber. He's not a guy that's never done it before. No, he's a man that's been hit in the face. He's swung hands and won championships with his hands before. So I would pick Joshua by a wide margin, but I'd be interested in the fight.
Good. Lyndon, does it intrigue you, the former heavyweight UFC champion boxing AJ?
Look, not really. I must admit, I'm not a UFC fan. I'll watch it in passing and the big fights, but I don't really follow it that closely. So it's probably hard for me to comment. What I will say though is that those types of events probably should be right at the end of a career or something. I agree with whoever said it before. I don't like to see those fights mid-career at those events. I know the fans love him, but I mean, I don't want to see that fight stand in the way of him fighting Wilder or Fury or whoever. So, no, I'm not in favour of it. I doubt I would pay to see it, to be honest. So,
Lo, what about you? Ngannou, AJ, just think about it. See the bright lights.
All right.
UFC versus boxing.
She's not feeling it. She's not feeling
in my
it.
head. Okay. I didn't know who Ngannou was before he called out Fury. Like, I don't keep up with UFC.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it or any other sport really except boxing. So does it interest me? I mean, I'll watch it. I like Ezra said, I like fights. I just like fights. But what I'm more interested in is why is this the strategic move that Eddie is making for AJ? Why are you not thinking, let's get him set up for Fury? Why are we not getting him set up for Usyk? Why are you thinking of this sideshow? Unless you are as Mario said, like at the end of the career. Because are you not confident that he can't climb up those ranks and get, BoxRec Gray to edit your name back into number one? I don't know.
Well, the reason is money.
Yeah, it's money. But here's the thing, because Ngannou was talking about wanting to box in the summertime, right? And Eddie was saying they wants AJ to fight 3 times. So if you're going to fight 3 times in 1 year, I mean, they're not going to be against like killers, right? Because they're trying to bring them back. I just think from a monetary standpoint, this fight is just too big. The reward for the risk reward factor in this fight is a no-brainer. It's just like Mayweather fighting McGregor. The amount of money he made fighting McGregor, which was a fight that he could easily win. And I think Joshua would beat Ngannou. I don't think Ngannou would stand a chance against Joshua. So I just think because Ngannou's got to get that fight in, he wants to fight in the summertime. I think they just want to squeeze this out quick so they can get that big payday. And Joshua, what did Joshua say today? Yeah, they asked him, what is your motivating factor? What are you still in it for? He said, money. I mean, so he's not getting any younger himself. He's 33 years old. So I just think from a monetary standpoint, the fight's huge, and it's going to be hard to pass up.
All right. Okay. Well, look, guys, we got one more topic here. So we saw the fight card in New York. It was in the Hulu Theater. That's the basement of Madison Square Garden, formerly known as the Garden Theater. But I like the venue. It's a good spot to have some fights here. It holds about 5,000 people. Obviously, Amanda Serrano won her fight, and Bumgarner won her fight. After the Serrano fight, they already had a montage ready, and I liked it, to be honest. And they announced Katie Taylor, Serrano 2. It will be in Ireland. Shout out to McGregor. I don't know if anything came out of it, but he said he'll be willing to sponsor the event, to pay some security fee. I thought that was great. Good for him if that's the case. But who do you favor to win the rematch? I know it's a long ways to go. You reserve the right to change your opinion, but as of right now, who do you favor? Let's start with you, Easy Raw.
I probably would have favored Serrano going into it. I thought she kind of blew her load in that when she heard her and really went for it, and then kind of just declined on the second half of that fight. But it was really going in her direction. But after I seen the fight with Cruz, it really kind of seems like that style, you might be getting diminished product now. Sometimes with that style, you get like a short run, and it really seemed like she was more beatable than ever. So I'm going to favor Taylor in that rematch, but I think it's a great fight. I can't wait for it. I'm very excited for it. I did want to point out one thing that I did notice is the guard, right? A defensive guard in women's boxing is kind of not apparent at all. I don't know if that has to do with the short rounds. I don't know if that has to do with lack of power, but it is one thing I noticed, like a technical flaw that I've noticed from the women's fighting. But it has led to a lot of action, so I can't complain.
There you go. Lyndon, who are you favoring in this matchup?
Oh, this will be a great fight. I can't wait for this one. I thought the first one was unbelievable. Two of the best probably in pound for pound history, these two girls. And I thought Serrano really let Taylor off the hook in the first fight. I thought she had that fight won, and she let the last probably 3 rounds slip, and it cost her the fight in a really close fight. I think I'm a bit like Izzy Raw here. I thought that Serrano may be going into the rematch, but she was probably less convincing on the weekend or whenever they fought a week or two ago. And I just think in Ireland, I don't think it's going to be at Croke Park. I think they've got another stadium lined up. But either way, all the Irish there, I think it'll be enough to bring home the win for Katie Taylor in probably another split decision. And I think Katie Taylor, gets the nod in that one, and maybe it might be one of the last fights she has at 36 years of age. Who knows?
Okay, Beeb. As of right now, who are you favoring?
Well, this is a classic puncher versus boxer matchup, and generally, when you have these, and when there's a rematch, I tend to favor the boxer. I gave Taylor the first 3 rounds in the first fight, and I had Serrano winning 4, 5, 6, and 7, and I thought Taylor swept the last 3. I'm going to say something that may sound demeaning to Serrano, but I don't mean it that way. She is somewhat one-dimensional, but that one dimension she has is very good. You know what I mean? And she likes to come forward, and she's sort of like a pattern type fighter, but she's quick, she's strong, and she's got a lot of fast twitch muscle fibers, so she's able to get those shots off, and it's hard for opponents to be able to react to them quick enough to block them or get out of the way of them because she's so quick and explosive. But Katie Taylor has great timing. She has great versatility, experience in the ring. She can box. I thought Delphine Persoon beat Katie Taylor in the first fight, and then when they had the rematch, Katie Taylor made the adjustment. She fought at range more. She moved a little bit more, and she decided to not spend an excessive amount of time in the pocket. So she made the adjustments, and in the rematch, I had her winning 7 rounds to 3. I thought she beat Persoon very clearly. So I think Katie Taylor will make the adjustments. I think she'll box a little bit more. I think she'll fight on the outside, and I think if Serrano gets close, I think she'll try to tie her up and nullify her. I don't think she'll exchange as much as she did in that first fight. I think she'll win a decision in the rematch. And again, being in Ireland, I think that will give her some, added advantage, an added benefit. So I like Katie Taylor in the rematch. I think she'll outbox her.
Mario, who are you favoring as of right now?
Yeah, I'm favoring Taylor. As you said, we reserve the right to change our opinion, and who knows, I might. But at this point, I just feel like I would have maybe given the slight edge to Taylor. Feels like on neutral ground. But the fact that they're fighting where they're fighting, it's hard for me to see the fight already stripped down on paper and realize like how competitive it could be. And I still think Taylor could win. Then you add in the home field advantage. And we've made the point, earlier too, that can be a hindrance. But I think ultimately, when it comes to boxing specifically, not just like home field advantage in soccer or football or basketball or whatever, this specifically like relates to the judges. And I know that like, I don't want to bring that stuff up, but it's just an unfortunate truth. So it's hard for me to pick against Taylor knowing that, Amanda probably has to beat her by a couple rounds just to get like an even fight.
Okay. All right. Low, who are you favoring as of right now?
I'm gonna have to say Katie Taylor as well. I feel like in Amanda's last fight, I did not see the defensiveness that we used to see, and I was shocked by that. I feel like she had, the girl cut, but there was more that we could have seen had this been 5 years ago. I feel like this would have been a shutout. Now, Katie, she's a great counterpuncher, as Lee said in the comments. And then she's got the home field advantage, although she's never fought at home. So I don't know how she's going to handle that, the pressure of that. But either way, regardless, I think Taylor will take it.
Okay. I do favor Taylor. I favored her in the first fight. I favor her this time around as well. I think it's going to be great. Again, she's obviously, there's a lot of pressure on her now because she's going to be fighting in Ireland. I get it, but just like in the Tszyu situation, I think great fighters rise to the occasion. I think Katie will rise to the occasion. And I do hear what people are saying. I've heard a lot of talk about Katie Taylor slowing down, and I really don't know. I personally, this is me, I don't know what people are talking about. I think she looks phenomenal in all her fights. But I don't see her slowing down. I just think she's fighting tough fighter after tough fighter, and they're going to give her, resistance. In Amanda's case, though, she's been boxing professionally for a while. There's always going to be wear and tear.
Got more miles on her.
She's got miles, and this Cruz fight, I think the fact that it was an undisputed fight is kind of clouding people's judgment here a little bit. If this wasn't an undisputed fight, if it was just another girl she was fighting, right? Not that Cruz is another girl, that's not what I mean, but if it was just another fight that was not undisputed, I think the alarms will be going off on people right now because she was getting hit a lot in that fight. She was not backing this girl up, right? And this was someone who had blood in her face, covering her eyes for half of the fight.
Yeah.
And she had her so timed that even with blood covering her eyes, she could time the right hand on her, or the left, I should say, right? So that is going to be an issue for Serrano because Katie likely is not going to be cut, not going to have blood over her face, and she's going to be countering her, right? So I think Serrano's going to get stopped. I think she's getting hit a lot. I think the reflexes are dwindling, and I'm seeing it. It's my opinion, and I think I saw it in this fight. But go ahead, Pete.
Another point too is people talk about, oh well, she faded in the Taylor fight, but she kind of slows down in a lot of her fights because once again, when you're that fast twitch, explosive type fighter, we've seen it like David Hayes, a fast twitch guy. Mike Tyson was fast twitch. When you're that fast twitch type of a fighter, where everything is explosive, you tend to burn up a lot of energy and adrenaline. And Jean Pascal, he's another guy that's kind of like a fast twitch. Those types of fighters, they tend to fade down the stretch a little bit. They can't sustain a fast pace. Julian Jackson, another one. Those guys that just have that explosive snap, fast twitch power, they tend to fade. And I think that's just the type of fighter she is. And in that Cruz fight, I had the fight close. I had Serrano winning 6-4. I know the judges had it like 7-3. I thought that was a competitive fight. You know what I mean? So
it was a good fight.
She's got a lot of miles on her. I think she slows down regardless of who she's in there with, because again, she's trying to hit home runs, right? And that's gonna take some stamina away from you. It's gonna burn a lot of adrenaline. So it's like the candle's burning at both ends. Katie Taylor, you can say what you want about her. She's like ice in there. Like she's like stoic, even when she's hurt, like she just deals with it. You know what I mean? Yeah. She's steady, she's such a steady pace, and she never loses her head.
I just think
I thought Serrano in that 5th round went crazy. She threw like 100 punches in a 2-minute round in that 5th round against Katie Taylor. She blew her wad, and there was no way she was coming back from that. I said it after that run. I was like, oh shit, she couldn't get her out of here now. It's going to be a long road ahead the rest of the fight.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, I just think for all the talk I hear about Katie Taylor slowing down, Katie Taylor's wearing and tear, she should retire. For all the talk I hear about that, I think people are projecting. I think it's Serrano more so has wear and tear, and I think it's Serrano that has the miles in there, and I think that's going to be the big difference in this fight, in my opinion, right? Because those are some real things. So we will see. And look, just one last thing I want to say: I'm not a fan of the high tops. I get that she fights that way with those regular shoes or with those tennis shoes or whatever, but if she gets knocked down and her leg twists the wrong way, she's gonna break an ankle or something. Like I'm just saying.
Oh, don't knock the hustle. Don't knock the hustle.
No, I'm just saying, bro.
Let her
like
wear what she wants. Come on.
she could wear what she wants. I'm just saying, like it could backfire. You know, I guess she's just used to it. But look, I want to thank for the panel for coming on. Everybody for giving me the time. Shout out to MC Direct. She texted me. Her phone died. That's unfortunate, but we'll have her back on in the future. Shout out to everybody. Thanks to the whole panel for giving us their time and coming on. Thank you so much to Lyndon, Lo, Mario, and Easy Raw, and as always, Joe. And we're out of here. Peace.
Peace.